Hey guys, Blade Master Rush here, back with another one. If you're trying to figure out, is your wife cheating on you, check out some of my other videos. But today, we are going to be talking about and covering the fleshed out path system in War in the Plaguelands Cataclysm. So a couple weeks ago, a month ago or so, I started adding paths to the game so that every faction you get a choice. You get to play, the Silverhand Paladins, the Scarlet Fanatics. You get to play the Plagued Ghouls or the Necromancers. And, I've done a video on this, but the intention was to add some replayability, some uniqueness, so that when you're playing blue over and over and over again, you can say, hey, maybe I'll try the other path. And maybe to create some counterplay or some complexity in this game. So we added the paths originally to 6 factions, and about a week ago I finished adding paths to every faction, which we'll go through in a second. And just now I finished standardizing the unit data for every every new elite and every new unique. So what that kind of looks like is, for instance, elites kind of have like a class now. So tanky elite will have 2,000 health and maybe about 300 mana. Or like a bruiser elite will have 1,500 health just across the board. And then there's a similar setup for the unique units, and so we'll go through that all in a moment. Before I do that, I will show off all the paths just for fun. So you have, Sir Thomas. This path was already in the game, but Silverhand Paladins, Scarlet Fanatics, Sir Thomas, Mallet Zealous. You kind of have like a tank path or a bruiser path, blue ranger path, or I think this is a tanky path. Teal's this is new. Lore goes here. You can either get Valdemar and a bunch of bruiser units, or Landgren and a bunch of mages. I touched up the unit data for the purple elites. These guys are about the same. Pink and yellow are unique in that they have 3 demi-hero paths. So they have like one path is just regular, and then one path is 3 demi-heroes. So this is kind of like a tanky mage mix. Dark green had Herod and Loxy converted into paths. Orange, the Banshees or the A-bombs. Green got Horgus and some ghouls, or Death Speaker Solandra and some new units, some new mages. Vectis, ranged unit, ranged mage mix, and then the demis. And then this is new. Gray gets either Cauldron Lord Razark or Soul Wrath, something like that. This is a bit temporary, the actual units. And then light blue gets Putridus or Rattlegore, and then brown already had the Reservius/Gothic path. So that's, the boring stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure what is more interesting, unit data or the actual names of the paths. So the first archetype that we have, actually, before we get into archetypes, I realized we added these new unique units, right? And they were based off of existing units, the strongest versions. But I found that in general, they were basically no tankier than a regular unit, and they weren't necessarily worth microing individually. They just kind of were like slightly better than maybe the strongest regular units. They didn't have any more health, or they weren't particularly unique other than maybe a couple. So to start, every unique unit has this thing called Combat Veteran, which just reduces the amount of damage it takes by 20%. They are not considered like heroes or elites, so they don't have resistant skin. all elites have resistant skin. All uniques have this combat veteran, so they can be charmed, which is significant. And then every elite and unique now has a plating. So the tanks, are going to have mithril plating. The bruisers might have heavy plating or regular plating if it's kind of a more DPS-oriented bruiser. And then the mages all have robes, which does not actually look like a robe, but they take less damage from spells and magic attacks. And then I think the banshees have ethereal because they're special. So yeah, and I will go through essentially every new unit, path, unique, and elite unit has been revisited and touched up. So let's start with the tanky unique units. They have 2,000 health. I think they start with 1,700 health, but we already got an upgrade. They're going to have heavy armor. They're going to have mithril plating. And I think these guys have pulverize, and this has some like cleaver ability or some shit. And then the tanky elites. Oh yeah, so all elites have rejuve, but some of them have lesser rejuve if they are for some reason. Like I think all the bruisers have lesser rejuve besides the ghoul, so this guy might need lesser rejuve. So they heal for 600 instead of 1,200, which I thought was a fair trade-off. We have this inner strength ability, 20% damage and more health regen for 10 seconds. First strike, which is already in the game. The tanky elites have like Defiant Taunt. Oh, I missed something. Every unique has a passive too in the between the plating and the combat veteran. Most of the elites have passives now. And this is not completely done, but it ranges from like cleave and bash to critical strike. And I think there's like a feedback in there. So the uniques all have something. That's an elite. Something in this slot here. And yeah, so tanky elites are not super interesting. A lot of them have Defiant Taunt. They're just tanky. The bruiser elites are a little more interesting. I balanced the caravan guards finally. So the human form is tankier with the heal, and the worgen form is a little quicker on the feet, deals a little more damage, light armor, all that fun stuff. We got this cool new Scarlet Houndmaster and these cool new dogs. Let's see, what's significant about these new guys? So these guys are pretty much the same. Whoops. These bruiser uniques, they have defend and inner strength. They might be edited. And then this is kind of like an archetype. This is teal, red, and dark greens. Path elites, they have like a thunderclap and lesser holy radiance. And then these dogs have devour, which I thought was pretty cute flair. They can actually eat things. And the ghouls are pretty simple. These guys are probably the new bloodletters because they have zeal. So yeah, those are our tanks and our bruisers. The mages are a little more interesting. They all have 1,000 health to start. The avid is roughly the same. Rejuve, Inner Fire, Dispel Redemption. The Scarlet Oracles got buffed a little bit. They have feedback now. Oh, that is a crazy range. I have to nerf that. What the fuck? These guys got buffed a lot. They now this tooltip is wrong. They heal a lot more from this statue derivative ability, and they have Purge and Spirit Link. Probably need to increase the mana cost of some of this shit. And then this is the new elite for Green's Path, the Death Speakers of Debt. Unholy Frenzy, Dispel, Rejuve. They get the mana drain. And these guys are kind of interesting. Ground Widow Worshippers. They're basically like melee mages. And they have mana shields, so we'll see. We'll see what gets done with this. And they have feedback, so they could be pretty OP, because they basically can go in and like burn mana and deal AoE damage. And then these guys are about the same. Skullman's Necromancers, about the same. Just as you can see, they all have. Let's get her out of there. They all have the same mana, and I guess slightly different health. I'm not sure how that happened. Probably something to do with upgrades. The Elite Banshees, Life Drain Charm, Rejuve, and the Arc Banshees are about the same. So it's like some of this stuff is not super exciting. It's just everything is standardized, and the only other significant thing would be the Caravan Guards got reworked a little bit, so that human form is longer range, even though we can't show it off, and deals more damage, and the Worgen form is shorter range, and they can attack quicker. These guys have flare too, which could be significant. So that is haphazardly all of the paths. Some of it's not crazy interesting. It's just sort of like, hey, these guys they're all the same, but they're different. But you can now play War in the Plaguelands and play any faction and get, cool units, cool hero. You don't have to complain that your faction doesn't have a path, because they do. And these units should be a lot better. So maybe we'll have control group 2 meta. Yeah, like, follow, subscribe.